Hey, welcome to Quick Take. I'm your host, Susie Tomanchuk, along with my favorite co-host, James Capps. How are you, James?
I'm great. I wasn't favorite co-host. I'd been relegated to third place, below the dog. But I think I moved my way up.
Well, I only said that because we have a guest today. So,
Yes.
I wanted to make you feel good so that you would get your confidence up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about our guest?
Oh, I'm so excited. We have Rob Reynolds with us today, who is a good friend of mine. He is the CIO at Congruex, which is a really great company here in Colorado that does some amazing stuff they think about how to lead people, a real people-focused orientation. We could spend an entire episode talking about the great stuff you guys do and how you think about your employees. But, Rob, we wanted to jump in on your leadership style. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and we can jump in there.
Sure. Thanks, James and Susie. I'm glad and happy to be here. Look forward to the conversation. Yeah, I've been around for a while, a little long in the tooth, as they say. Been in the technology, went to school for technology, so I'm actually doing what I went to school to do, which is
wow. Write that down. That's one guy.
not always the case, but been mostly in the telecom space. Started off from in the systems development realm, and have been CIO at a few different companies, and from extremely huge companies of the Comcast of the world to where I'm at today with Congruex, which is a little over a 5-year-old company that has had extreme growth in those 5 years. We're approaching $1 billion in revenue, and so it's been
wow.
a big change in a short amount of time. And as you said, it's all about people, and our biggest asset is people, the teams that we have, and the team that I have certainly throughout my career, but certainly here at Congruex has been awesome. And I'd love to talk about that.
Yeah, I know we've had several conversations around the way that you think about leadership. I love hearing you talk at events and some of our little smaller groups saying how you think about it. Why don't you give us a little sense of some of the things that you think differentiate the way that you lead, and some of the things that you bring to the table that are obviously successful for you, but also things that our listeners can take away as some nuggets for their leadership.
Sure. Let's start with the obvious one, and that's communication. Communication
sure.
obviously is key, but maybe take a little bit different approach to that. The way we kind of think about things and the way I like to approach it. First element of that is just always wanting true, honest, and unfiltered, feedback and the truths.
Yeah.
Right. Too much and too often, especially when you're dealing with folks with certain titles, you want to sugarcoat things or not maybe come out with exactly what's going on, and not letting people know that maybe, you're getting a little bit of lip service, or they're saying they're doing this, but this is really happening, over here. And so I really talk about honest and unfiltered, and we try to do that within our teams. Let's deal with things head on. Let's have great conversation. Let's battle it out. And then we make the call. And when you make that call, everybody runs that play. But if things are not going right, if things are a little bit messed up, let's address it. Let's understand it. How do we change it? How do we make things better? But really, really true, candid feedback. I want to know how you're feeling. I want to know your opinion on stuff. And then again, we put that together as a group, and we make the right call for the situation, for the company, whatever it might be. But I think too often things are sugar-coated, or people say what they think they want you to hear rather than really what's going on. And so I think when I think about comms, that's kind of the first piece, that really.
I think that's so good because, and I think it goes up and down. I think your example or alluded to talking to leadership, but boy, there's nothing that grows and builds strength and trust with your team when you are transparent with them. So often I find that the talking points from the head shed are a little sugar coated, and I'll just tell my staff exactly what I know. Hey, this is all I got, right? And that just those are investments in the team throughout time. And I think you're right. That type of transparency always pays off.
Yeah. I just want to add too, I think it's also important to just illustrate how open you are to it, because you said like some people will sugarcoat it. Well, that comes from when your reaction to the feedback, and then people approach it differently. So really being open to it to understand it. I love it.
Yeah, both ways.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe another piece, related around that is stop talking and start listening. You know,
Yeah.
People talk about active listening. Active listening is really hard to do. It takes
Absolutely.
a lot of work to truly listen.
It's a muscle.
It is, absolutely. It has to be trained. No question. I mean,
Mhm.
you have to be able to stop and, without formulating your opinion or without making sure you get your point across, listen to what they're saying, learn from their experiences and respect those things. Like I say, it's easy. It's really easy to do or to say, but it's really hard to do. And I think if you truly understand that, you understand how when decisions are made, you can communicate that back out as to why that is, how it maybe differs from where their viewpoint is, but how it supports whatever the goals of the department or the goals of the business and objectives or whatever it is. But listening, you can't listen enough. I don't think we do enough of that.
Yeah. I love when I am hit right between the eyes, either witnessing or being in a conversation with somebody who's an amazing listener. And it is like suddenly watching some athlete do pull-ups for 20 minutes. It's like, how is that possible? I didn't know that could be done. And those, whether it's a podcast, and there's several great podcast hosts. I know a couple of people that I've worked with in the past. It is hypnotic and it is impressive because you see the other side of that conversation open up and you can see what a difference it makes. And I aspire to that, to be as good as some of those folks, because it's a game changer.
It definitely is. And I a metric that I always talk to teams about is leaders should listen 70% of the time. And so it's hard though. You have to kind of look back and evaluate yourself and say, am I listening enough? Because it is so hard. And we believe that we are sometimes, and we're not doing it as well as we could.
Well, I love that. I love throwing a number out there. That plucks every guitar string of every leader, right? I have to be 70. This is more like 40. I got to get up to that 60. So that's a good one, Susie.
I don't know if I want to see my KPI on that one. I don't know.
That's right. Real-time dashboard on my phone would be horrific.
For sure.
So what else? Give us another area.
How about less is more, right? Simplify our communications. We, especially in the tech space, we architect and engineer our communications. We try to always feel like you have to give a dissertation or give examples as to why something is, and I think far too often. Now, obviously, you have to start with, you have to know your audience, right? Who are you speaking to at the time? Certainly, but far too often we elaborate way too much when really a simple yes or no or suffice. They'll let you know if they need more information, and then they need clarification or whatever. And I had somebody tell me one time they held up a bottle of water and they're like, "What is this?" And it's like, well, it could be water, it could be vodka, it could be, whatever, it could be this, could be that. It's just water. And the answer is it's just water.
Right. Let's make it hard.
Yeah, don't make it hard. And we find ourselves, especially in the tech space, just, we think I think that people think they have to really explain themselves and give examples. And we really try to answer just the question, yes or no. Start with that. Is it binary? And then go from there.
Yeah, and it goes so well with, if you're listening well, if you don't talk a lot and then you listen, then you can find out if they understand. So you listen to understand so that you can get there. So I love that one. Less is more. And especially because we're going so fast. We go from meeting to meeting. We try to get so much done. And so I love that whole idea of try to just give less and just give silence and listen and see how it landed.
Well, we talk a lot about the power of that thoughtful pause, and that silence goes so far, and people will give you more if you are just not jumping in. It's a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
All right, Barb, comms. That's a really great nugget.
Yeah.
What? Give us a pillar of your leadership style.
Well, I think related to communication or whatever, but is celebrate our wins. We don't celebrate our wins enough.
Yeah.
We always did. So go back to the tech industry. We're always dealing with the problems, right? This didn't happen. We have these many bugs, this outage, whatever it is. Trust me, we talk a lot about that, and we over communicate those things. We have to communicate those up and across and so on. We live our lives there. And then to your point a minute ago, Susie, we're so busy, we deliver and we're on to the next thing. We're on to the next thing. We do not do enough around stopping and celebrating our wins, no matter how big or small, from a dot release to a big release to a full-blown blowout to stopping an outage or avoiding some sort of a cyber event, and so it's probably not probably it is my weakest part of my leadership, is trying to remember to stop and celebrate those. We do a pretty good job, and our teams do a pretty good job of celebrating individuals and team things that occur, but not the stuff we do day in and day out, because it's hard. It is hard work and it's hard stuff. The spotlight's always on us. We're always the reason why something's late or something's behind. And we need to, so I try, that's, like I say, it's one of my biggest areas that I really try to work on, is celebrate our wins and communicate that up, advertise that stuff.
Yeah. It is, they do say the data shows, even recent data around recognition and how important that is to people. And most people leave a company, 1 out of every 2 people leave because they're not recognized.
Yeah,
and so it is so important, but it is hard to remember. Like you said, you're not the first leader I've heard that from, that I got to slow down and really recognize that, because it's almost like we think it, but we need to really say it out loud.
Well, we also forget where we are in the journey. So many times we're in a boardroom and we're working on a program, or we're formulating an idea, and then that goes off for implementation. We've already moved on to the next one, right? And it's you forget that downstream effect and that execution has happened maybe a month, 2 months after you thought about it, and you have to keep your head above water and say, you know what, I'm focusing on third quarter right now because that's what's coming up, but I got to go celebrate first quarter. And that's just a real challenge of a leader who has to, be Janus headed. You have to be looking in multiple directions at once, and that's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, it goes a long way to keeping your teams happy.
Yeah,
love
it for sure. Maybe one other area. I love the book Extreme Ownership. If you guys have read that, by the former Navy SEALs, Jocko, Willink, and Leif, Babin. This is something that you talk about getting smacked on top of the head. This is the one that hit me between the eyes when I read it. It's all about stopping and making sure you're asking yourself, what could I do differently, or what could I be overlooking, right? It could be maybe how I communicated something. Did I not effectively communicate that out? Or things that I did, could I have done it differently, done more of? Also understanding the situation, in the moment in time. Is somebody going through a circumstance, personal or professional, that's causing them to be somewhere else maybe than in the present, and just challenging yourself to look at what roadblocks could I help get out of the way. And so it's all about taking ownership and accountability. Looking in the mirror is paramount. It's true, right? And it's overused probably a ton, but the best lessons that we get are from when we fail, right? Or make mistakes or mishaps happen. And so having that retrospective and honestly, looking yourself in the mirror is something that I try to do. I don't do enough of. None of us probably do. But it's something that, I think is key and paramount, and having those retrospectives, even, in our world, in the technology world, is absolutely key.
Yeah.
One of the key elements of a retrospective in my mind actually ties to one of my favorite quotes out of that book. And I'm hoping I get it right. I think it's not what you preach. It's not what you preach. It's what you tolerate.
Yep.
And I think a retrospective is the manifestation of identifying what you tolerate. And if you look back and accept those shortcomings, accept less than, cohesion from your team, then that is, you can say it all day long that we are all in this together, but if you don't behave that way in a retrospective, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
And that retrospective is the place, the crucible in which what you tolerate is formed. And I always think about that when we do retros.
Yeah. I want to just add before you wrap it up, James, with it, we'll see
Oh
if
dear.
you can remember them all, is that self-awareness is something that people believe they either have or they don't. And self-awareness goes down as you go up in the organization. But self-awareness can be cultivated. And one way to cultivate self-awareness is to look back and to really be thoughtful about how you're leading or what you're doing and how a situation played out and what was your impact in that situation. So such a great key element to a good leader, especially at senior levels.
Yeah, that's really well said.
All right, what are the takeaways for the
Well, you know, I mean,
Quicksters?
Rob just brought so much great to the table.
Yeah.
You know, Rob, isn't is my task and burden is to wrap things up on the show and try to give everybody a quick recap. But I think, you know, you brought up some really great takeaways in the comm space, and you know, I think, you know, more is less, or less is more. You know, making sure that you're not trying to fill the space, understanding that you've got to be a good listener, and then when you are speaking, you know, razor edge transparency, making sure that that communication is crisp and everybody is on top of things, and then, you know, not losing the point of view and perspective, and celebrate. You know, be aware of what your teams are doing. Celebrate not only the diving catches, which we tend to do, but also the day-to-days. And, you know, it's a John Shantz right there, our Comcast brethren, that, you know, celebrating the diving catch is good, but it isn't how you run a business. And you know, you've got to be good about celebrating. And then thank you for bringing up, you know, Extreme Ownership. What a great book. I really enjoyed that book. And I think everybody here should take a look at that and, you know, get slapped upside the head in every chapter, and realize that, you know, we all have a lot to learn.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Rob, thank you so much. You gave us so many great tidbits of wisdom from your journey as a leader. And you also said that it isn't something that you just, you know, we all lead differently. There's a lot of components of leadership. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Appreciate it as well. And anytime, love to come back.
Oh, we'll hold you to that.
Right.
We're always excited to have somebody share a little more of their wisdom along the way. So thank you.
That's right.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, we'll do upside down month.
That's right.
All right, Rob.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.